Welcome back. And last week our population reached a new milestone, 28 million, despite concerns over declining fertility rates.
Yeah, the average age of Australian women giving birth has jumped from 25 years of age in 1971. Now, or in 2024, it was the age of 32. These shifting norms mean the average household is set to look a lot different into the future. So what impact will this have as we deal with an ageing population? To tell us more, we're joined by 7 News foreign editor Hugh Whitfield. Hello, Hugh. You're doing this sort of big week-long investigation around this, right? Families are not only opting to have fewer children, lots of families are choosing to have remain childless by choice.
Yeah, it was a really big story last week when the population hit 28 million. But when you peek under the bonnet, effectively, of those figures, it belies a really, some would say, troubling story. In fact, some of the experts we've spoken to say this is a human catastrophe, that we are simply having fewer kids than we were over the last couple of decades. The fertility rate, which is the number of children born to women of childbearing age, has plummeted over the last couple of decades. There was a little peak around the turn of the century when the Howard government brought in the baby bonus. Peter Costello told people to have one for the husband, one for the wife and one for the country. But after that, what we are seeing is the economic conditions that we as a nation are facing are just not set up to give couples in particular the confidence to bring babies into the world.
So what do all these stats mean for the economy, actually?
They're going to shape our economy in the years ahead, because without those young babies going into school and then going into the workforce, the tax base will be smaller compared to the number of older Australians that we need to look after, particularly in aged care. So these kids' parents and grandparents, and it changes the shape of our communities when there are more older people than little ones running around in a playground or playing sport or growing into the young Australians that we want. And of course, the flip side to this is that the numbers are growing because of immigration. They're not growing because of children in Australia. They're growing because of immigration.
Yes, so just ticked over 28 million. It's immigration driving the growth?
Yeah, it is immigration driving the growth. There was a huge intake of particularly temporary visa holders after COVID. It went up above 500,000. It is steadily coming down, has been coming down over the last 2 years, but not quite at the levels yet that we saw pre-COVID. And the experts tell us that if it wasn't for those migration levels, our economy would be even more trouble than it is already. We would be in recession if we didn't have those migration numbers coming in to prop up the economic base of the country. And it is one of those topics that's difficult to talk about. People don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, right.
It's very difficult to talk about, but they're the sort of conversations we want to have this week.
No, absolutely. And a flow-on impact, of course, on tax revenue, right? So what does that mean as the budget has to now cater for larger numbers of older Aussies?
Yeah, that's right. And it means that communities face pressure to find people to work in those sort of places to look after aged Australians, not just in the big cities, but in country towns as well. Where do you find that workforce? Where at the moment, much of that workforce is coming in from overseas, and these are just the facts and the figures, and I know that it's difficult for some people to kind of have that conversation with their neighbours or with their friends, because it can get a little bit awkward, because people find it difficult to discuss the future of the country. And I think some of the reaction that we've had from last night's story about the fertility rate speaks to people's fears. It speaks to those fears that people have about having larger families. It speaks to the housing crisis. Can you fit 3 kids into a 2-bedroom home if that's all you can afford?
Yeah, right.
Is that the sort of environment you want to bring kids into? And they're the difficult conversations that couples are having.
Well, and to feed them and to clothe them, and is the car big enough for that many kids? So you kicked it off last night. This is a week-long snapshot, if you like, of Australia. What else are we going to see on 7 News this week, Hugh?
So we're going to talk about immigration tonight. We're going to be very clear about the figures, and also the fact that our politicians can't agree on it. And it is probably one of the big issues that is driving the fracturing of our political landscape. We're also going to take a look at how set up we are to feed a country of 28 million, 30 million, 35 million into the future, and also looking after our aged Australians, because the baby boomer population is getting older. Gen X is about to move into that stage where they're going to need support as well. They're the ones who've got us to this point as a relatively successful middle power in the world, but How does it look in the years to come? And that's what we're going to take a look at.
Wow.
Highly offended that every time you said older Australians, you look straight at me. I'm just, everyone noticed. Everyone noticed. Everyone.
I felt like you were looking at me too.
Well, I had this my
wanted me to
job,
look
but
nice
you could.
with the Hilarion.
Anyway.
Hugh has his giant sort of microscope out this
Yeah,
week.
it really. Yeah, it looks like an amazing series, mate. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, we look forward to that. You can catch the rest of the series every night this week on 7 News right around the country, of course, at 6 p.m.